Hello everyone, this is Farid Khan, and in this episode of Unpopular Opinions on Zalmi TV, I am joined by a very special guest. I have with me former Zimbabwe captain and one of my favorite players, Tatenda Taibu. Tatenda, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Farid. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you so much. So, Zimbabwe have made their way to the Super 12 round of this World Cup edition, and this is the first time that they have reached the second edition. You were part of the inaugural edition where they defeated Australia. Can you compare the two instances? Which achievement carries more significance?
Well, I think it's quite difficult to judge because during the times that I played, we used to take part because we used to qualify automatically. Now, so many other teams have started to play, good cricket, and I think ICC is doing a great job in globalizing the sport. And we see a lot of teams that are really, getting to a good standard, and thereby making the World Cups really interesting. So if you look at the World Cup now, it's more interesting than it was when I played, if I'm to be honest, because you look at the teams that are deemed the underdogs are still playing really good cricket. You look at the game today, for example, you've got England playing Ireland, and from the last I saw, it's proven to be a belter of a match.
Yeah, they need almost 60 runs from the last 6 overs, and they've Livingston, I guess, who's batting right now.
All right, interesting.
There are few players that have played a big role in where Zimbabwe are today, and if we won't mention Sikandar Raza, that would be unfair on him and on Zimbabwe as well. Take us through Sikandar Raza's journey as a Zimbabwean player and how has he evolved for the team in this edition of the World Cup.
I think he has been playing good cricket. If truth be told, he is pretty much the one that's holding the Zimbabwe innings together. You see that every time that he has scored runs, the team has won. Even if you're looking at the matches that Zimbabwe played prior to the qualifiers and prior to this World Cup. So every time he scored runs, not every time he scored runs, but most of the time that he scored runs, the team has gone on to win the games. And not only looking at his batting, he also bring in his bowling, which has become handy over the last few years.
There was a bit of controversy in the match between Zimbabwe and South Africa. There was a lot of rain around, and the Zimbabwean players then went off the field after Nagarawa got injured as well. Did you see the match going through and getting a result, or do you think it was a fair outcome because both teams got 1 point each?
Well, I think to begin with, if you look at the teams that, not only the teams, but if you look at the format that's being played and how the matches are scheduled, every game is important. And if you're to give yourself the best chance to qualify to the next round, you've got to have points on the table. So I think both teams, if I was Zimbabwe, even if there was a little bit of drizzle, I would still want to get a game out of it because getting 1 point might not be able to get you to the next round because you have to end up being in the top two. So getting 1 point where there's a chance of getting 2 points will prove to be, better. So I would think that probably both captains wanted to play. Yes, the conditions were not the greatest, to suit a cricket match. But I think if I was a captain and I was looking at that situation, I would definitely want to play and try and get 2 points out of it.
You talked about the Zimbabwe team in the past. They used to be pretty strong and they used to directly qualify for the World Cups, as you mentioned. But this time around, they had to, go through a qualifying stage. They went through a similar stage when they failed to qualify for the 2019 World Cup, and they were pretty miserable, in that stage. So tell me how much it feels to Zimbabwean people back home and their fans. Obviously, it means a lot to the players, but how does it feel for the fans to be at this stage and to be watching them live in the stadium?
Cricket is the number two sport in the country. It's popular, not as popular as football, but it is fairly popular, and the people that love the sport, really love the sport. So they do follow cricket in Zimbabwe, and it means a big deal for the people of Zimbabwe. For the team to qualify, and they will be, looking keenly for the team to win a few matches in this round.
There's a mix of young players as well, and there are a few experienced pros in Zimbabwe. We talked about Sikandar Raza, but there's Sean Williams and there's Craig Irvine playing as well. You have played with both guys as well. So tell me about their influence on the team and how important is it to have senior pros along with youngsters?
Well, I think both Craig and Sean Williams will be disappointed with how they've been performing of late. I think they have more ability than what they've shown. I know Craig has just been coming off an injury, and he scored another, a good 50, I think, against Scotland. However, if you look at the top 8 batters in the Zimbabwean team, you've got 4 lefties and 4 righties, which is probably ideal for this format. So Sean Williams hasn't really fired up front, and I'm sure Zimbabwe would be wanting him to fire, so that he gives them Zimbabwe some wins if Zimbabwe is to win a few games in this round.
Just a last couple of questions. Pakistan plays Zimbabwe in Perth, and it is a ground which is one of the most bouncy grounds in world cricket, not just in Australia. And Zimbabwe are blessed with a few bowlers, very tall bowlers, especially Muzrabani is there, then there's Nagarava, there's Chatara, and there's Jongwe as well. Usually teams struggle who do not have a fourth seam option, but Zimbabwe have Jongwe as their all-round option as well. So tell me, how are you looking forward to that match, and could Zimbabwe put up a fight against Pakistan as well?
Well, I think both teams have got good pace attack. So it will be a battle of pace attack. As you rightly mentioned, Zarabani will bring in a bit more bounce. Ngarava will bring in, a different angle. You always want a left armer if you've got one in the side. Chatara does swing the ball away, which is, which we found to be handy in the tournament so far. That's why, the first 6 overs have not been explosive. It has been a tournament where pretty much the last 10 overs on the batting side have been the explosive ones. So definitely there is Jongwe, who hasn't really been used so far, but he is also, a very handy all-rounder. And not only looking at his bowling, but also his batting is going to become handy in a couple of games, I reckon. So yes, to answer your question, it's definitely going to be, a pace attack battle.
Lastly, you have played with some really big names in Zimbabwe cricket. Zimbabwe went through a bit of a mediocre period, and then they suddenly vanished from the international scene. Now they have come back, they have started qualifying for world tournaments, and they are looking like a bright spot once again in Africa, at least if not in world cricket right now. So tell me about the journey that Zimbabwe have gone through, and how do you see them progressing in the next couple of years or in years to come?
I think if you're looking at Zimbabwe cricket, I think anyone shouldn't be blinded and look at Zimbabwe cricket as just the sport, because a lot has got to do with the governance of the country, and we all know that the country has gone through difficult patches, and cricket is not immune to those challenges that Zimbabwe has gone through. So definitely Zimbabwe cricket has gone through some patches. And yes, when we played, we used to, automatically qualify, and we used to have things more in order. And then there've been, a roller coaster up and down over the several years. I reckon if the country was to, come back to be, stable, then I'm sure, the ripple effect will be seen also in cricket.
Thank you very much, Tatenda, for your time, and best of luck for your future endeavors as well.
Thank you, Farid.
That is all from this episode of Unpopular Opinions on Zalmi TV. This is Farid Khan signing off until the next episode.